I know you belong to somebody new, but tonight you belong to me.
Just had what is probably the most erotic experience I've had in my entire life. I hate to say it, I mean, of course, because I haven't had that many experiences, but Susan has been feeling ill. She had a cold, and I offered to rub her feet, to rub her toes, to give her some stimulation. That went on. I probably rubbed her feet, her toes, her beautiful feet. She has such pretty feet. Of course, everything about her is pretty, beautiful. And I know she felt it. I mean, I know she couldn't have missed it. She's not naive either, I know, from what I've read in her journals. That girl is not naive. When I started massaging her legs, I would have loved to go all the way up her legs, but I did do her calves because her feet were resting in my crotch, so I sort of rubbed her calves. She didn't seem to mind at all having me that close. I mean, I was close. I was touching her with my crotch.
This is Stephen Powell. In January of 1976, Stephen Powell and his then-wife Terry Powell gave birth to their son, Joshua Powell. Terry has claimed that throughout Josh's childhood, Stephen would allow Josh to do whatever he pleased, with very little discipline. Stephen would also have a tendency to show Joshua pornography at a very young age. During Josh's teen years, it has been said that Josh once attempted to commit suicide. He would make threats towards his siblings while holding knives, and on one occasion, he deliberately killed his sister's gerbil. When Josh graduated from high school, he then moved to Seattle and attended the University of Washington. Sometime during his stay in Seattle, between 1997 and 1999, Joshua met his first girlfriend, Catherine Everett. They dated for a short while before moving in together. Catherine has stated that during the initial months of living in the apartment with Josh was a kind and caring boyfriend, but that quickly changed when he began restricting her from speaking to family and friends. Catherine began to feel trapped and unsafe around Josh, so she decided to plan a vacation to Utah and never came back. She then broke up with Josh in November of the year 2000. Very soon after the breakup, Josh would go on to meet a woman by the name of Susan Cox at a party hosted by mutual friends. The relationship moved very quickly, and Josh and Susan would tie the knot in April of 2001. After the wedding, the two of them moved back to South Hill, Washington, to live with Josh's father, Stephen Powell. Stephen quickly became infatuated with Susan. He began writing obsessive notes in his own personal journal, secretly reading Susan's diary, sharing love songs online, and even making voyeuristic videos of her very frequently, like this one.
That's Susan. There's Josh. Standing with her, but I really want her. I wish she would look my way. She was so pretty today when she came over to the house. Wish the lighting was better.
Stephen would also make video journals of himself speaking to the camera about his interactions and intense feelings about Susan. Eventually, Stephen's emotions grew too strong, and he confessed his love to Susan.
I'm probably wrong, but I've really fallen in love with you. I don't know. I mean, for the last year and a half, you're about the only thing we can think about. And I don't know where it began. It probably began when you were living with me, and you come into my office and, let me feel your legs smooth, relaxed, or whatever, and then it just went from one thing to another. And, that experience on the couch, on your couch in Yakima 6 months ago was just, I know that, it was a massage, right? But just being with you for 2 hours and holding you, and maybe I'm getting the wrong signals from you. Maybe I'm interpreting something that I shouldn't be interpreting. It just, for example, when we were sitting on the couch, it just felt like you were very, I was extremely aroused, and I think you were somewhat aroused, at least I thought.
I don't know where you're going with this.
And Susan, I'll tell you where I'm
married to your son, and I should just be the daughter-in-law.
I know.
Which puts me a step beneath your own children.
When Susan expressed to Josh her discomfort with the situation, they began to speak about moving into a place of their own. Shortly after this, Stephen made a move on Susan and tried to kiss her. It was after this incident that Susan and Josh finally decided to move into their own apartment in West Valley City in Utah. Despite the relationship beginning to show signs of toxicity, the two went on to give birth to their first son, named Charles, in 2005, and then to their second son, named Braden, in 2007. Unfortunately, the weird advances from Josh's father didn't end with the move, as Josh would stay in good contact with Stephen, and Stephen would make weird statements over the phone about Susan. And once, Stephen mailed a package to Utah containing graphic images of naked men. As this behavior began to further strain the relationship between Josh and Susan, Josh began spending money very irresponsibly. He would also begin to treat Susan in similar ways to that of which he treated his ex-girlfriend, Catherine. He became more and more unstable and controlling, as well as more and more possessive. Nearing the end of 2007, just after the birth of their second child, Josh and Susan declared bankruptcy, citing that Josh possessed about $200,000 of debt. This sequence of events led Susan to become more worried about her safety, and in July of 2008, Susan went on to record a video documenting some of the couple's personal belongings.
Covering all my bases, making sure that if something happens to me or my family or all of us, that our assets are documented.
Shortly after making this video, Susan also wrote up a will. Contained in that will, Susan made this statement, "If I die, it might not be an accident, even if it looks like one." On December 6th, 2009, a neighbor of the Powell family stops by the house while Josh is still at work to visit Charles, Braden, and Susan. This neighbor leaves the house around 5 p.m. Another neighbor then witnessed Josh arrive home and park the family minivan inside the garage around 8 p.m. Later that night, roughly around 11:45 p.m., a neighbor can hear the alarm of the family minivan going off inside the garage. They noted that it appeared that all of the lights inside the house were off. 2 hours later, at about 2 in the morning of December 7th, the same neighbor that heard the car alarm earlier heard a man and woman screaming and yelling coming from the Powell residence. The man was yelling, "Get into the van," and the woman was yelling, "No, you're going to hurt me if I do." The van was then witnessed leaving the home with 4 occupants. Later that morning, Josh, Susan, Charles, and Braden were all reported missing to the police. When Josh and Susan did not attend work, the police decided to access the Powell residence. Upon entering the house, the police found 0 signs of struggle or foul play. However, the police did find Susan's purse with her wallet containing her identification. They also noticed a wet spot on the couch with 2 large fans pointing directly at it. Later that same day, at about 5 p.m., Josh returns home with both Charles and Braden. Susan was nowhere in sight. Josh's hands were fairly dirty and had several cuts, and when asked about Susan, Josh would state that he and the 2 boys left for a camping trip just after midnight the night before, and that Susan stayed home in bed. When the police searched the family minivan, they found tarps, blankets, a shovel, a container of gas, and a generator. They also found Susan's cell phone in the van, which seemed to have had the SIM card removed. When Josh was questioned about why he did not attend work that day or let his boss know that he would not be attending, He replied that he completely messed up the days and thought that it was Sunday when it was actually Monday. When he was questioned about why he was not answering his phone, he replied that his battery was very low, so he was doing his best to make sure the remaining battery would last, just in case something were to happen. He also stated that he did not have a charger with him for the vehicle. Due to the strange circumstances surrounding Susan's disappearance, the police continued their investigation into Josh Powell and the Powell household. Further investigation of the house provided a number of interesting finds. The police located the will that was written by Susan, as well as a note where Susan stated that she was concerned about her safety and afraid for her life. They also located documentation for a $1.5 million life insurance policy recently taken out on Susan. After testing the wet spot on the couch, they found trace amounts of Susan's blood combined with the blood of an unknown male. The police also became quickly aware of Josh's suspicious activity that happened within the days surrounding Susan's disappearance. They found that Josh had withdrawn all of the money that Susan had put into retirement accounts. He had also pulled both of their sons from the daycare that they were enrolled in, and canceled any appointments that Susan had made with her doctor. The police also spoke with several of Josh's co-workers, one of which claimed that at a work party before the disappearance, Josh stated that the best place to hide a body would be inside an abandoned mine shaft. When the police further investigated the story that Josh had told about going camping, they returned to the location he spoke of, which is called Simpson Springs, located in western Utah. The police were unable to locate any evidence that Josh and the two sons had actually spent the night there. The police also went on to question the oldest of the two sons. When speaking with Charles, who was only 4 years old at the time, Charles confirmed that they did go camping. However, he also stated that both Charles and his brother, as well as both Josh and Susan, were together on the camping trip. However, Mommy did not come home.
So your mom stayed at the park.
Yeah.
Where did she stay at the park? Do you know where?
She stayed at the Dinosaur National Park.
Do you know where at the park? No?
No. My mom stayed where a crystal are.
One of Charles's teachers later went on to claim that Charles would make statements in class that his mother, Susan, was dead. Charles also drew a picture of a van with 3 occupants and said to the daycare workers that Mommy was in the trunk. On the same day as Charles's interview, on December 8, 2009, Josh was also interviewed. When confronted with the information that his son provided, Josh further denied that Susan came camping and kept his mouth completely closed.
I just spoke with some of our other detectives, and you're going to have to wait here with us. You're not going to go anywhere. One of our detectives just interviewed your children, and your children are telling our detectives that Mom went with you guys last night, and that she didn't come back.
She did not go with us.
Okay, well, with that, just getting that information, you're not going to go anywhere. I'm not going to let you leave. I'm going to detain you. You sit right here. If you want a lawyer and you want to talk, or you want to change your mind and talk, or take a CBSA test, then we can do those things. But
Now with that in mind,
They know that she didn't go with us.
well, here's the thing, kids are very honest. That's one thing I've learned in the years of doing this job. That when kids talk to us, we'll listen because they're honest. And they never lie, they don't make things up. So if they're saying they were with you, they were with you. Okay, I mean, she was with you. So I have to believe the kids. So now it's gonna be up to you if you wanna help us find her and help us get to the bottom of what really happened here. That's what we're here for, okay? We're gonna find out either way, with your help or without your help. I honestly don't need your help. I feel confident enough in my investigation and his investigation and everybody else involved. We have great detectives in this department that will find out what happened. We'll get to the bottom of this with your help or without your help. So I want to give you the opportunity to help us and tell us what really happened. Because you're the only one that knows.
Nothing that happened. She was not with us. And if my kids said that,
So your kids lie then? Do your kids lie?
sometimes they do. I mean, if they said that she was with us, they know that's not true.
So if they
And
say...
if they said that she was with us, then I
And what?
guess that would put her out at Pony Express.
Okay, and that's my concern.
Josh then quickly retained an attorney and was labeled as the main person of interest in the disappearance of Susan. Just under a month later, in January of 2010, Josh and his two sons moved back into his father's home in Washington. Around this time, Josh, Stephen, and the family of Susan were beginning to have public confrontations.
And I guess we're here,
You're
right?
not believable.
Yeah, right, sir. Right, I'm not. You are, though. Anyway, is there any other question that I can answer for anybody? I'm totally open to anything. I mean, we've got a lot of information about the Cox family and about Susan, a lot of it from her journals, a lot of it from Josh's, he lived with Susan for 8 years before she left. He knows a lot that is not in the journals, but the journals confirm what he knows that Susan told him about her family, about her growing up years. We weren't going to bring this up with the media. He brought it up with the media.
But you came here.
I did come here. Yes, I did. Because I wanted to see what was going on, and I wanted to.
And I have one question for you. How is you coming here helping to find Susan?
It isn't helping to find Susan. How is your standing at our neighborhood market helping to find Susan, Chuck?
People see the signs, her
Bullshit.
pictures out in the media.
Right.
It's been all over the media.
Yeah.
If somebody has seen her, then they can report to the police.
And you're only going to do this. Which other stores are you doing this at, Chuck?
We're doing it in West Valley City.
As the tensions and suspicions continued to grow, more bizarre events began to unfold. At one point, a website was created that suggested that Susan had met a journalist who had also disappeared around the same time that she went missing. It went on to insinuate that Susan's mental health was severely declining and that she had likely ran off with this new man to Brazil. It is believed that this website was started by Josh and Stephen Powell. After the police were able to obtain a warrant to search Josh's new home, which he and his sons lived in with Stephen, the police discovered about 4.5 thousand photos and videos of Susan as well as other women and neighbors that belonged to Stephen. A large portion of these photos and videos appeared to have been recorded without Susan or the others' knowledge. When Stephen was questioned about these photos and videos, he claimed that he and Susan had fallen in love behind Josh's back. On September 12, 2011, Stephen Powell was arrested and charged with voyeurism, as well as child pornography, as many of the photos and videos that were secretly recorded appeared to be that of children.
Let's go back to our lead story tonight. The father-in-law of Susan Cox Powell, the Utah mom who disappeared in 2009, was arrested today on child porn charges in Washington state.
A prosecutor involved in the case against Stephen had strong beliefs that though Josh did not commit the same crimes as Stephen, that Josh was likely well aware of many of the crimes that took place and possibly involved in similar crimes of his own. Because of this, Josh would lose custody of his children temporarily. Josh then moved out of his father's home and into a place of his own. On February 5th, 2012, a social worker was scheduled to bring Charles and Braden to see their father for a supervised visit. When the social worker arrived at the home, Josh answered the door and quickly told the kids to hurry inside and that he had a surprise for them. He then slammed the door before the social worker could enter and locked it.
Hey, I'm on a supervised visitation for a court-ordered visit, and something really weird has happened. The kids went into the house, and the parent, the biological parent, whose name is Josh Powell, will not let me in the door.
Within moments, the house exploded, killing Josh and both children, Charles and Braden.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm John DeSepolo. We are interrupting your programming for some breaking news out of Pierce County this afternoon. We have just confirmed there has been a fatal explosion at the home of Josh Powell. Air 4 is over the scene right now. Take a look at some of these pictures. This home is completely devastated and decimated.
The inferno erupted just after 12 noon. Police say Josh Powell used something, maybe gasoline, to set off the fire. Investigators tell us the children had just arrived with a social worker to visit their dad when he pulled his two young sons into the home, locked the door, and set the fire moments later.
After containing the house fire and observing the bodies, the children were both found with cut marks on their heads and on their necks, and a hatchet was found next to Josh. However, the coroner would specify that the cause of death for both boys was carbon monoxide poisoning. At one point during the initial days of Susan's disappearance, Josh's brother Michael had become under suspicion for the random disposal of a Ford Taurus vehicle at a wrecking yard in Oregon. When Michael was questioned by police, he would not and did not provide any direct answers regarding why he had done this. When the police located the vehicle, they could not find any direct connection to Susan's disappearance. However, almost exactly 1 year after the explosion, on February 11, 2013, Michael Powell committed suicide by jumping off of a 7-story parking garage. After serving his time for the voyeurism and child pornography charges, Stephen Powell was released from prison on July 11, 2017. Just over 1 year later, on July 23, 2018, Stephen Powell died of a heart attack at the age of 68.
Yeah, good morning. And Steve Powell, of course, is the father of Josh Powell and the father-in-law of Susan Cox Powell, the West Valley woman who disappeared from her home without a trace back in December of 2009. There was a tweet issued late last night from the Pierce County Sheriff's Office confirming Stephen's death and saying that he died of an apparent heart attack. Now, this is a situation, an ongoing saga that many Utahns are familiar with. Now, after they were married and before moving to Utah, Susan and Josh lived with Steve in his Puyallup, Washington home. Later, when detectives were searching for evidence relating to her disappearance, they found journal entries where Stephen Powell poured out deep feelings for his daughter-in-law, Susan. And during that same investigation, they also found clues that Mr. Powell had been very active in voyeuristic acts in his own neighborhood, some involving very young children. And at one point, he was actually brought up on charges and sentenced to prison. Now, this is a situation where the ultimate goal in all of this was to try and find Susan Cox Powell. Well, that never happened. Later on, Stephen Powell's grandsons, Charlie and Braden, were murdered in 2012 during a supervised visit with their father, Josh, in Washington. Josh also died in that fire and explosion. Neither Josh nor Stephen ever revealed anything regarding the whereabouts of Susan Cox Powell. She remains missing, and the investigation into her disappearance remains unsolved.
The body of Susan Cox Powell has never been discovered.
A horrible murder. Let's not call it a tragedy to distance ourselves from it. Let's not sanitize it. Let's call it what it is. It is something terrible. It is something wrong. It is something evil.